Hello, happy full moon. Welcome to this Instagram Live Sensual Sovereignty Burn the Box with the beautiful Michelle Wedderburn. So, let me introduce Michelle first. Michelle is the founder of, here she is, yay, founder of Casa ELM Boutique Guesthouse, Expat Mentor, and Relocation Consultant. Michelle resides in San Miguel de Allende, where we both are. She and her son have lived here since 2018. And during these years, Michelle has created a brand that represents life from her and her son's lens, while developing a business and brand that shows the acceptance they experience living in Mexico. As a guest house owner and relocation consultant, Michelle has found her speed. She has been able to develop relationships with others in the expat arena, and she continues to follow the growing expat community. It has been her pleasure to be a facilitator of this accelerated movement. So she says many people are overwhelmed with the stress life brings. Life brings full-time citizens living in the U.S., and that she's met so many people since these endeavors started who just want out and to move and live abroad and experience a new chapter in life. She states that it's been a complete pleasure living in Mexico, and that her community is what grounds and solidifies her decision to move abroad. So let me bring on Michelle. Oh, here we go. Yes. Yay! It worked.
Yeah. Yay.
Yay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
And I have to say I had the pleasure of being on your YouTube
Yes.
channel earlier this year. So it's so good to have you here. And welcome, Linda. Earth Emeralds. Ooh, beautiful name. Welcome. So, this series, gosh, now I think I've done, I don't know, it's something like 18 of these conversations, which just started as a way to try something different on Instagram, really. But it was a way of, I'd had this concept in my awareness, and it was coming into my work of sensual sovereignty, which I call embodied love, liberation, and the license to expand the expression of our true essence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I think, and it's a bit abstract. And the first guest that I had, Cosmos MD, talked about how in her bio she talked about how she steps outside the box, smashes the box, and burns the box. And to me, that really resonated with this idea that we can expand out of spaces that feel constricted, contracted, like spaces that we find ourselves in through our, our families, our culture, our work, whatever it is. And we can really, if we choose, we can break out of those spaces. So I really definitely feel like your life exemplifies this. And I'd love to just hear a little bit about maybe like what resonates for you about this, or how do you feel like you've stepped out of boxes in your life?
Well, I think sometimes, if we have experiences from childhood where, we are kind of, depending on what our environment is, our personalities and things like that, that we might be kind of in a box situation. And then I do think that sometimes some of us are just kind of like, screw the box. And I'm a screw the box person. Um, and I think a part, again, my environment, I grew up with very, masculine energy in my household. I had my dad, who I love to death. I love my dad. But there was just kind of like the gender role expectations, and also my brothers. I have four brothers, and just always like my mom, who seemingly was, just amazing as she still is, catering. But for some reason, I had a complex with that
Mhm.
basis. I would be like, what's going on with the other hand house. So, I would say that in general, I kind of, pushed against those kind of gender roles as a child, because I remember being very young and refusing to do things because I just, tell my dad to pass it off to one of my brothers. But as I got older, um, I think we do all fall into some kind of box in general. We all have experiences where working for corporate, I thought that was the right thing to do for me initially, because everyone's like, get that job in corporate. And this was back, go to school, do this, do that. And it's sort of like that societal expectation that we sometimes strive to live up to.
Mhm.
I, kind of got older, let's say in my late 20s, in my early 30s, mid 30s, I started just kind of realizing that all these things that I thought were for me were not quite for me. So little by little, and I was always kind of resistant anyway, but little by little, I realized it's okay to do things a little backwards. I really did a lot of things backwards, in terms of jobs. I
Mhm.
school at night part-time. I worked a full-time job when I was much younger in corporate life, blah, blah, blah. And then like when I got to like 35 or 37, I was just like, "Ugh, I'm tired of corporate and I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm done." And
Yeah.
I quit, and then I ended up getting a job in a nightclub restaurant, and I loved it. And it was weird for me because I was always so, got to get the 401k, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But the expectation of having to go a certain way,
Yeah.
this actually felt better emotionally to me because I had fun. I was having fun. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I go home, there's no stress. It was just a few days a week, and I made decent money, more than I was actually making in corporate. So it was just all these like weird things that started to challenge the stereotypes. And
Mhm.
you know what? It's okay. Like, don't worry about, like you said, being in the box. Don't worry about it. Just do what you're doing, and keep enjoying your life. And that's it. And
Mhm.
those, I think all of those experiences have led me to having faith in being able to change the painting or the expectation, as opposed to falling in line, and also having faith that everything will work itself out. You definitely need a plan, but it's like it doesn't have to be the plan that society pathed for you.
Yes. Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. It just I from our conversations that we've had too, I just feel like there's a lot of, yes, faith and trust,
Mhm.
that goes into leaving boxes. Sorry, I'm by the window. It's a little loud. Um, but you know, I'd love to hear more. I'd love for you to share a little bit about what brought you to Mexico, and like what is exciting you here. What are you passionate about?
Oh, that's a lot of questions in one. Um,
Well, whatever feels best to
well, that's fine. I'll just the short version of that would probably still be somewhat long. So, fortunately, I've been able to travel a lot in my life in the last 25 years. Mexico was a lot of or I should say on the top of the list of places that I've gone to the most. And
Yeah.
I've been here often, off and on since I want to say 2005 was my first visit to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And off and on, I came with my ex. We built a house on the beach in Oaxaca. So there was just like a lot of reasons for me to be here. But at that time, I was younger, so it was not really my intentions at that point to live in Mexico full time. It was always kind of like a vacation
Yeah.
thing. And I didn't know a lot about Mexico. And just in general, I didn't know a lot in regard to how big Mexico is. So fast forward to 2016, when I really started looking at moving and living abroad because I didn't want to raise my son. And I don't remember how old he was at the time, like 4.5, going into 5. I didn't
Yes.
in the US, I could see a lot of the things already falling and tearing apart at the seams. And I thought, this was never like an intention for me to raise him in the US anyway. So I
Mm-hmm.
started looking at all of my options. Because I was born in Toronto, that was an option for me. I hate the cold. So I was just like, I'm going to go, north because we were living in Florida. Let's just look at other things. So I really was exploring a lot of different places. And then fast forward to 2018, where I was able to make it happen. And, I didn't have necessarily a grand plan as far as what would I do when
Right.
I here. I had several really solid ideas. I was in a position at that time to have a little time to figure it out. Um, and I also realized that living here was less expensive in general. I mean, I felt that in Florida when I had my business there, um, it just always, there was always something, I'd get like a nice pay for whatever, job I did. And then some car would break down, the work vehicle or something. There was always something, I had real estate property, rental income, and it was just kind of like, okay, we're going on vacation and then get back and then there's like a problem. And everything just felt so like absorbent in terms of cost.
Right.
So when I started researching where to go, what countries would just make the most sense, but still wanting to be somewhat close to the United States, Mexico made sense because I had been here so often and I knew people here and I just felt comfortable here. I felt comfortable. And then 2018 rolled around midway through kindergarten for my kiddo.
Oh,
Like, we are so out of here in June. And yeah, so we picked up, and I remembered the shipping company came, got all our stuff, and yeah, we came to San Miguel. And as I, settled into life in San Miguel, I started thinking, like, what do I want to do? You and I have talked about this. I
yeah.
thought I would retreat for women. Everyone would ask me, what are you going to do there? And
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm a women's retreat. I think. And
Yeah.
that was my heart. So, just kind of one thing to the other, COVID, and then last year, a lot of the things that I started working on, and they sort of happened. Um, I was so willing to share my experiences with people. When someone would ask about San Miguel de Allende specifically, people that were friends with me that visited or that I met here, they would say, hey, ask Michelle, she lives there. And then it somewhat just like turned into being a business where I thought, well, you know, I love sharing my experiences, but it's also a lot of my time. And
Mhm.
we're talking to a few business coaches, just friends of mine, and they were like, you should be a consultant and you should. And I was like, yeah, I actually really like it. I like talking to people. I like sharing. I also wanted folks to see life from a Black lens. And that's why I started initially with the Afro expats, because I really wanted people to understand life from my lens as a Black person in Mexico, that I'm accepted
Yeah.
and there's not like, the things that we're used to feeling maybe back home in the US or wherever you're from. So I really started to pour into showing and shining a light on those experiences, just for those who are interested. If you want to leave, this is what it's like for us, and why we enjoy it here, and this is how we've been treated. And it just kind of, snowballed into a bunch of other things, and then now into the guest house. So yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yes, it's so good. It's so interesting how it just like started with some conversations or people coming to you with questions, and now a whole, like, there's lots of people have questions, I think, and are coming here, maybe staying at the guest house, which is so beautiful. It's such a beautiful space. Um, is there, like, I'm curious, and we have talked a little bit about this too, but I'm curious, um, where you see it going, or what is inspiring you.
Well, I think I would like to still see it going in the direction of providing a haven for people who need to escape wherever it is they're from. What I'm kind of getting from this experience in general, because I'm growing and I feel like I'm growing with the house. And I know I said to you once, I'm letting the house speak to me, and how it houses people who come here. One of the things that I really realized in doing the consultations, it's really interesting, because there's always that, like, okay, I want to come, I need information, but
Mhm.
there are people who are leaving because they have a lot of trauma. And when I say trauma, I'm not talking necessarily about domestic abuse or anything. I mean it from just trauma from living where they live.
Yeah.
Trauma from, just the everyday grind, everyday
Mhm.
stress of earning, and you're not really living. You're just like paycheck to paycheck, or bill to bill, or, meal to meal, depending on the situation. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I just realized with kind of meeting people is they're just tired. They're really, I mean, and these are mostly women, and I'm just exhausted. I've met women who are like, oh, I'm here because I'm retiring in 3 years. That, they've come to do a tour, and they're just like, I'm leaving in 3 years. And by the end of spending this 1 week or 2 weeks in San Miguel, they're just like, oh, I'm going to see how I can get down here in a year. I'm not really here to assist you with when you quit the life that you want to get away from, but I
Yes.
assist with this being the soft landing city and soft landing place in Mexico.
Mhm.
It's an amazing city. I mean, we both lived here for a few years.
Yes.
I think even for me, even though I had some experience with San Miguel, but it was so long ago, it was literally in 2005. And I didn't want to live here in 2005. I was much younger, and I just, I was like, I'm in Miami. Like, I want to be, party and sexy. And now that I'm here, it's like fast forward, all these years later. And I'm like, I love it and I appreciate it. I appreciate the community and the culture.
Mhm.
I appreciate being accepted. These types of conversations come up often. So with the home, what I'm finding is that it, to me, is a space where people can connect with the community here instantly, and already feel like they have friends, or they've, made a connection with someone they really like. This isn't dating. I'm talking about, like, as in, people to do things with,
Yes.
friends,
Like-minded, or like, yeah.
like-minded. I mean, almost every single group of women that have come, whether it was two at a time, or
Mhm.
five at a time, or three at a time, they have all stayed in touch. And I just think that that's amazing for me to see that, and
Mhm.
also to understand that there's a lot when people get here that can be overwhelming, scary, or just, you don't want to be a fish out of water. And I realize that a lot of people need to feel like they're part of something almost instantly, or maybe they might feel like they don't like it. But a lot of women are just ready to have this kind of like trauma removed or at least start healing in a space where they're accepted and they feel good and they can start a different chapter. And I keep running into this literally, even in conversations, all of my consultations, it feels like people are just tired, you know? So it's turning into me observing this more and more. And I find it quite interesting because I'm not a psychologist or a counselor, but I understand that from the inside out because I think I felt that way. I thought I loved living in Florida. I really thought I wanted to be in Florida for 10 years. I was there for 10 years and I did not like it. And I was so happy to leave. And even now, I've been here for 4 years and I still pinch myself. I'm like, I cannot believe I live in San Miguel, Mexico. I have all these things. You know, it's just amazing. It's a really amazing feeling. And I'm just glad that I'm a catalyst to a lot of those journeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I've said this to you before, but you have like such a gift for creating community or like bringing people together. I know I have benefited from that too. The people I've met that there's people, as we both know, like there's a lot of transients in this town, like people that come for a week, a month, you know, like a little bit of time. And then there are those that are like us that are here a bit longer. But it's so great to meet. I just feel like my experience from being here and then meeting people who are from the US, well, yeah, it's not all the time, but much of the time, my experience with being here, meeting people from the US is that there's a lot of likeness. There's a lot of similarities of like, okay, well, what, and the question that everyone asks, I'm sure you've gotten asked, I know I've gotten asked like, well, what brought you here? Like, how did that happen? And then you hear people's stories of, like I know for myself, I wasn't planning to be here that long. It was just started with a visit, and then like look, him for a little bit longer, and then it was kind of like, okay, I'm here for a while anyway. You know?
I love it.
You know, I know the town just kind of like, the town itself just kind of embraces people, you know, that are coming through. But yeah, I really love that. That's just been part of your calling, and it's something that comes so natural to you. And then you have this house, you have this space, and kind of offering people a sense of community and all of that. Gosh, there were a lot of questions that were coming up as you were sharing. I'm trying to think of, because I actually think it might be, well, we'll see how you feel. There's no, I might ask something. I'm careful about what I ask, but you know, if it doesn't feel comfortable, we don't have to go into it more. But I feel like you and I both know because we're here. But I think some people might be curious about what things were like. What is it that people like us are leaving in the US and that we're finding more, you mentioned the word acceptance a few times, like acceptance here or comfort here.
I mean, I don't know if that was a question, but
Yeah, it's kind of
I didn't want to talk over you.
it's kind of like we mention it and then see like if there's something that comes here.
Well, you know, we're both chatters, so I didn't want
I know we are.
I'm like, is there more? Does she? Yeah. Whenever you're ready.
No. Yeah, go. Does that spark anything? Otherwise, yeah, there's more I can say, but
I think I feel like there's more care here and more humanity here. I think culturally, you know, Mexicans move at a slower pace, and so they make time for things that matter more. And I can say that from one extreme to the other, when I say one extreme, like, you know, there's the very affluent Mexicans or Mexicanos, and then there are the ones that, you know, we would we go to their house and be like, oh my God, let's help them, but they're actually fine. It's a state of mind. And when I say fine, I'm not minimizing, the struggle at all. But what I is that they still have each other and they care about their circle. So you don't, at least here, and I've traveled to Mexico City and larger cities, you don't see a lot of homelessness and, people on the street that are begging or drug used or, out of it because life has been such a struggle or whatever. I find that in their culture a lot more carefulness and care when it comes to people in general. Now, again, that's not every single person in Mexico, but I think that you're going to have someone offer help to a grandmom, a grandfather. A grandfather's going to offer help to a child, to a woman, a pregnant lady. There's really like this humanity that I think we miss and that we don't have a lot of and we don't experience, because I do feel like we've become and I say we as in when I lived in the United States, we've become a culture that really is just tapped into things, capitalism, consumerism, and we're just trying to get stuff and we're trying to survive and we're trying to hurry up and eat out and we're trying to be cute and we're trying to be, the center of attention and blah, 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 blah. And we forget about each other. And I find that, here, when you get here, it's kind of weird because I think initially you're kind of like, they're a little bit too in my space, because we're so used to blocking people out. I know when I lived in Florida, I lived in a development for 5 years, and I was happy that no one came to my house. I didn't want anyone to my house. I didn't want anyone ringing my bell. I literally would look out the window. If I didn't know them, I wouldn't even answer the door. I would just keep doing what I was doing because I was like, you call me, so I don't know you and I'm not opening my door, which is sad, because, and I say it's sad because it was the mentality that I had and I still have it in some ways. But when I moved here, the development that I lived in, it was all of a sudden I had literally amazing instant community. And it took a while for me to shed the layers of not necessarily distrust, but the layers of why are people being nice to me? Because I'm not used to this kind of treatment. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in the US, but I think to me, there's a difference between living in like the suburbs and, that kind of fancy setting where maybe, your neighbors and you all built your houses together and blah, 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 as opposed to living on the east side of the 95 in, in Florida, South Florida, where it can be a little rough before you get to, those two strips of street before you get to the ocean, where you got millionaires and then you got the broke folks. So in saying all of that, not that I was broke, but my point is there was just a lot of disparity and people stayed in their space. And so when I moved here, coming from like this kind of, very closed off, if I don't know you, I'm not letting you in my house. There's a lot of distrust. And unfortunately, that is the society that we live in, because there's a lot of weird things going on a lot of the times in the United States. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's not happening in places in Mexico, but I feel like San Miguel is definitely a smaller town. We're kind of probably a little bit in a bubble. But when I moved here again, I just really felt like I had to shed these layers of distrust. And, my son's going outside. I remember freaking out, like, okay, he's outside by himself. Where is he? Where's he going? House is he? Don't go to anyone's house. There were a lot of these things. I'm like, okay, I know them, but I don't want you inside. And little by little, I started to realize like it's a whole different thing. That doesn't mean I threw everything out the window in terms of caution, but I just realized just how much I was carrying. And again, I think that's a part of the trauma. You know, we're so used to just defending ourselves and protecting our own and at all costs. So it ends up costing us being human towards each other because we distrust each other even though we don't know each other. So, you know, there's just a lot with that. And I just think San Miguel helps you to shed those layers and it helps you to realize, like, and I think people who come here, like you said, the like-minded, um, you know, mentality is we came here, we took a chance. There are a lot of folks who come and had never been here before. I have clients who packed up and moved here. They've got their house or their rental unit,
Yeah.
never visited, maybe even Mexico, and they just came because they could see and feel like this is where I want to be. I want to feel human again. I
Mm-hmm.
want to connect with people without all the baggage. So that's what Mexico does that, but I do really feel that this place is special.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, I really appreciate that. Like the shedding, the layers, the baggage. What are we holding? We don't even realize like what do we hold in our lives, in our interactions with neighbors. Like I lived in downtown Chicago. I was in a condo. I guess it wouldn't have been, people can't just like stop by, but I was very happy to have nobody.
Me too. Like,
Like I'll just stay in my little my little
I
space
was
there.
so in Florida, I'm like, no, I don't know them. You can play on the sidewalk while I watch you, but that's it. Can they come in our house? Nope. Nope. But
Sorry. What's that?
I said, here, I'm not that way. I'm a little more open about all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, yeah, the life here, being immersed in it, it's much more community oriented. It's
Mhm.
much more family oriented. Well, I don't know, I feel that anyway, like the having generations living together or close by, or all of
Mhm.
this kind of thing. Um, no, I before this, when we were exchanging thoughts and things, I was asking because I still think it might be something interesting to talk a little bit about, and I can start to, I can share some of my own experience of like, what's the word I want to use? I'm thinking like integration.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
there's something about the term like cultural assimilation, like that is coming in my head, but I also don't really, I think I have some stuff on that from kind of being an immigrant and living in the US and like all of this. But I know for myself, it still comes in. I've been living here now at a stretch. It's getting closer to 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, I came in like towards the end of 2018.
Okay.
And I'm very grateful to be here. Like, I really appreciate all that you've shared in this. It really does capture for me too, like what it feels like shedding things, just kind of feeling lighter. Because I go back, my parents are in the U.S. And mainly it's my parents that I go to like see. I have those visits, and then I feel like I pick it all back again. Like I'm back in this, and this is so many things. My family things too, and all this. And as soon as I come back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so much relief. Like that's just happened enough times. Um, so much gratitude. And also like, I think about, the people here, like local people here who have maybe generations here in this town. And what it is to have all these people come into the town, and what happens to like costs, and what happens to people, have people get displaced, because now it's like it's kind of it gets to be too much. And I'm not at all thinking like this is you and I. It's not our like just us or anything, but just kind of thinking about it in a bigger way. And
Mhm.
also, I I think about I think about land a lot more than I did when I was living in the U.S. I think about like land and what's happened, and then this happens all over the world where land has been taken from people
Mhm.
who who were indigenous to the land, and getting in right relationship to the land. Like I'm not saying we need to talk about all this. I'm just sharing that like it does bring a lot
Mhm.
for me to sit with and try to kind of figure out like how do I want to give back, or what do I want to do, how do I want to connect with people, with local people here, with more indigenous people or people who are from this area. Um, and part of that is like language, which I'm still working on very much, like
Yes.
learning Spanish. It's like I try and then I don't use it for a while, which can happen in this town.
That's
Um, so all that to say, I'm curious because now that you're also seeing more people come, and maybe more people are coming because of what you do, because you're able to help create that soft landing for them, because you are like a relocation consultant that maybe you hadn't anticipated being in that role, but you are, and people are coming in. Like, what what have you seen with this, or what comes up for you with?
well, I mean, there is obviously evidence in front of us everywhere in Mexico that people are moving here. I think in any place in general, change is somewhat inevitable, especially in countries where, um, you know, like maybe, like, for example, I feel like the government here is kind of, all over in regard to just preserving certain things in general. I feel like it's not it's not at all like some of the places that I've been to in Europe. Like, for example,
Mm.
I spent a lot of time in Switzerland, and they're all about their people. It's like trying to break into a vault. If you want to live there, become a citizen there, they'll take your money. You can be a guest and visit, but it's not so easy because it is a richer country, probably for a lot of reasons that our country, the U.S. I say our. I was born in Canada, but meaning I grew up in the United States. There's not as much in place for its people, and I feel that Mexico is somewhat the same in regard to um, just really, making sure that the survival here of the people that live here really comes from, what they learn and how. And when I say learn, meaning the education level, I think is a challenge. They had like that. I think they just recently implemented where kids have to go to school until I think 12 or 14, but not beyond that. And I think before that, it was even a lesser age. Now, this might be a reach, but I do think that it starts at a very young age where, if you have access to, and we've seen it in the United States where our kids have access to higher degree of learning, higher degree of thinking, a higher degree of understanding, and then opportunities are there in general, kind of like as a blanket across the country, then I think that it does help generations to come to be more prosperous and to have less of a struggle. Now, again, going back to what I said earlier, there are so many affluent people here. I was about to say Jamaicans, Mexicans, and whole a thought that I think a lot of what we've seen in media and the portrayal of cartels and all this other stuff is that people here are struggling and they're poor and they need us. They really don't. necessarily need us. I think if all of the tourists and or expats were removed from Mexico, Mexico would continue just fine. There's a lot of other things going on. Now, to kind of hone in on my opinion about people moving here, I do think that gentrification worldwide in a lot of places, especially in places where maybe there's less structure from the foundation going up, it's easy for it to happen. It's happened in the US, it's happened in cities, in urban cities in the United States, where people have come in, they maybe sat together, the ones that have the money, and they created a plan, and they're like, we're going to push these folks out, and we're going to make this town beautiful. We're going to get rid of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I've seen it. I've seen it in Florida, South Florida. I remember when I first started living there, there was no Wynwood, the art district. And it was the hood. It was dangerous, and there were people cracked out down there. And I remember I used to work in an advertising agency because the owners owned a house in like the heart of this area. And, I've been back several times, and it is incredible how much it's changed to sky rises and shopping centers and just like multi-million dollar sky rises with penthouses. And, I was just like, oh, I remember when I used to drive all the way down here from Miramar, and I would get into this part, and I would be making sure my doors were locked as I'm stopping at all the red lights. So the point is that what I try to do with the programs that we offer in relocating is I ask people, hire local, right? Even for my tours, I am using, I would say, 85% of the people that provide services, because I don't do the services. I don't provide the service. I don't drive people around and because it's not legal for me to give tours. You have to have a permit and a license. So I do that. I hire local people that we've partnered with that will provide these tours. And so in some ways, I feel like, okay, if it's happening and you're part of what's happening, just be a part that's actually mindful and gracious and walking on the, we say walk with grace. Don't have these American expectations that I should be treated X amount of ways, and I should not, consider when I can someone locally to do the job for me. Whatever it is, my presentations kind of consist of local people, my immigration person, the person who does the neighborhood tours, the people who drive us around are mostly locals that that's what they do for a living. So for me, and anytime I can refer those folks, I do. I always, if I have my consultations, my resources consist of using local people to help whomever carry out the rest of whatever their task is. You want to know about insurance, contact this person. You want to know about insurance for your car, contact that person. You want a neighborhood tour, contact Jorge or whomever. And I really try my best to, full circle that process. The other part of it as well is when our folks are here, one of the things that we've added is to really ask people to be a part of understanding the culture. That's kind of something that I recently added, where I really want people to understand Mexican culture better rather than, and this was a conversation I had with a friend who's also African American, rather than parachuting into Mexico, because, a lot of us come because we're, like I said, we have our traumas from the US and we just want out, or we're frustrated. And I feel that, for me to doing this as much as I can the right way, I'm not perfect, but I've learned through the process things that people recommend. And one of the things and the conversations I had with a friend recently was, she said, are you including culture. And I said, you know, it's funny because I actually contacted someone about that teaches like a cultural kind of exchange or experience here in San Miguel. And she said, oh, well, I know a professor who is from the Otomi tribe, and this is someone that you should be in touch with. And I said, awesome. Like, put me in touch with her. And so, you know, that's a part of what we are putting together for upcoming tours is to include someone to talk about the history. We did it on the last one that passed in June. We like a whole like they had a inauguration for the house, the Casa de San Miguel, which you know we know is a person here in San Miguel, and they had a full week of just kind of introducing different things. They had turned the house into a museum, and then on Friday was the last day, and I sent my group to experience this, and it was all about why this person was so important and why San Miguel is named after him was that, you know, he had a very liberal thinking about the city and he understood and was very progressive about just having like the citizens of the city not be segregated and understanding that you know they needed to come together as a group and basically they for this particular night, they hired like a couple of local musicians because it was during the Romantic era that this individual came about. So I sent the ladies to experience, you know, this culturally, learn more about the, you know, why the city was founded and why this person was named. The city was named San Miguel. San Miguel de Allende was named after this individual. And it was just really nice because it was the last night before our farewell dinner and it just sort of topped everything off. So for me, it is important for folks to get that history, but additionally for them to, you know, try to learn the language. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, yeah, you might think your skin is a barrier, and in some places that's probably true, but language is really the barrier that we experience worldwide. And I think that if you come here, you intend to live here, you know, you use local as much as you can. I mean, I have referred so many people from handyman, moving people to painters to a house domestic person. And, you know, sometimes you get to know them. I mean, I've gotten to know a lot of these people on a very personal, you know, tu familias, mi familia también, you know, and I go to their house on a Sunday and we make tortillas and whatever. And it's just kind of like, it feels to me more than I parachuted in and I don't consider what's happening around me. Does it mean I'm perfect? No, I'm not. You know, I mean, I think it's a work in progress to always be aware and conscious. And I do think somewhat it's inevitable that things will gentrify in worldwide. And I just think that making a conscious effort to walk lightly, just like we say about preserving, you know, the land and not just the land in Mexico, the land everywhere. The environment is to be conscious and make the best effort you can make to contributing in a positive way as much as you can. And so that's always been my intention. I mean, even what I do, my groups are tiny, you know, like 3 people, 2 people at a time. And I'm fine with that because it feels more intimate and I get to know people. They get to know each other. I will never, you know, conduct something that's crazy massive. I'm not bringing a cafeteria load of people to be here. You know, I'm just kind of focusing on the ones that want to do it and do it as, you know, do it as right as possible.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for speaking to all of that and for sharing like what you're doing with the relocation tours, like how to bring in the cultural piece and how to bring awareness to like that process of, of relocating, of moving to a different country and what that entails. I really appreciate that. I'm wondering, I've really appreciated hearing all of this and what you're doing, what's lighting you up in your life. I'm wondering if there's anything um, that you'd like to speak to that hasn't come up, or if there's anything you feel like.
I mean, I just really love living here. I'm really grateful to be here. I think that from standing up and doing your thing as a female. You and I have had plenty of conversations about this, coming into your own, believing in whatever it is that's in front of you. I think that it's important to
Oh,
the inner portions of that. Can you hear me?
the sound cut for just a
Oh,
moment. Plus, there was this motorcycle going by or something,
oh, okay.
but then it came back. Maybe repeat that one little part.
No, saying that, I do believe strongly in just, you know, that one foot in front of the other kind of thing. Having faith in what you're doing, if you feel strongly about that. I think that just my life here has kind of developed and morphed in different ways that I didn't expect it to, especially when it comes to just doing this. I didn't come here necessarily to be on Instagram and to be on YouTube. And, it was just, it happened and it is happening. And then you see a need. And if you fill those shoes because that's your purpose, there's a lot in regard to passion. But if that is your purpose and you see what your purpose is, I do believe that you should pursue that. And I think that the work behind that is going to follow in the right steps. I really am, if you asked me a year ago if I would have had a space for just guest house, period, like hell no. That was seriously, you know and I'm telling you, like, and I know this might sound crazy, but literally people say that spirit moved me, and I hear it all the time, and I'm like, I don't know that I would choose those words necessarily, but I do believe that the way things happen and unfolded in regard to Casa ELM, it was meant to be. And you and I have had these conversations. As I said, a lot of things that I wanted to do maybe did not matriculate into what it is actually doing right now, but it still was something that pushed me in that direction. From personal stresses in my life to, okay, I signed up to have a tour and I'm doing this with someone else, and let's just do it. And I was just like, how do we do this? And, so little by little, it was sort of like, there's a need there because people are asking and they're asking questions. So it made sense, and it still continues to make sense, but it wasn't like I had a full on projection. Okay, in 1 year from now, I'm going to be A, B, C, and D. No, it was literally, that was my purpose. I feel very strongly that I've always had, comfort with being able to connect people and to, like you said, like bringing communities of people together. I love it. I really do. It's a lot of work and sometimes stressful. And, the more you're out there, people will come into town and they're like, hey, can I meet with you? Can I do da da da? And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry, but I just can't. However, if I do a group thing, please look out for it. I'll be there and I would love to meet you. My point simply is that, you start with something and it just continues to grow. And if you keep working hard at whatever it is and you keep believing and being as sincere as you can about whatever it is that you're providing. Like for me, none of this was ever like, oh my God, I got to make a lot of money. No, I mean, I'm not making, I have my YouTube channel, which people like watching and they love listening to. Yeah, YouTube, I don't know at what point you start to make money, but it's really not. I love talking to folks. I love doing my interviews. I haven't done one actually since you and my son, mostly because I'm super overwhelmed with the guest house, but you know, in doing all of that, it just made me see and come a little bit out of my shell, because I'm somewhat of an introvert, and come a little bit out of my shell and realize that everyone has such a unique journey and story to wherever they are in their life. And that for me was just kind of, you know, it kept developing into, oh, okay, there are people that are coming from a different mindset in regard to moving abroad. You know, for me, because I traveled a lot, I always thought, what's the big deal? You know, get on a plane, get there, figure out your da 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 da. But then no, really, I didn't think like this. I didn't think like that can be overwhelming and scary. And that's where I was so happy to share why you shouldn't be nervous about traveling to Mexico per se, because it's not as scary as, you know, maybe TV made it out to be, or what you know, you might think. It's actually a place you have to still be cautious, but it's still a country that's very welcoming and the people are very receiving. At the same time, you know, be gracious. Don't come with your hangups, and be gracious.
Yes, beautiful. Ooh, I'm sure that you're just hearing you speak, and I've heard you speak before, but like, um, I'm sure that for so many, it's calming. It's just like, okay, let me try, and like you said, do that one step in front of the other. Just like, let me maybe book a conversation, a consultation with you, right? Like, just check out what this could be, learn a little bit, and see if it's the right thing.
Definitely.
Oh, oh, thank you, Michelle. I'd love for you to share like where people can find you, and if there's anything, 'cause I know you're always planning things. If there's something you want to share that's coming up.
Um, I mean, we're doing a lot. I feel very fortunate to have an amazing assistant right now. Thanks, Brianna. She's so awesome. You know, I found her through Amber, and you know, Amber's visited, and so is Rashida, and it's been really nice to just, you know, have like a very small expat community expand and continue to expand, and seeing other people's successes, and you know, where everyone is kind of growing into their spaces of what they do and their purpose. So with Casa Elm, you can find it at casaelm.com. You know, we try to offer a monthly relocation tour. They're very small, intimate groups. Our capacity is 7, but you know, we really try to keep it at 4 people, because I don't know, I just find that that works for me. I like being able to meet in these smaller groups. So yes, we have one coming up, and it's, I think, actually, I believe for the rest of the year they're all sold out on the private spaces. So
Wow.
yeah, good thing. So if you're interested in having like your own room with a bathroom, you need to book for 2023. And for this year, we do have like Jack and Jill, which we have encouraged people, and few people have taken us up on booking those 2 spaces and bringing someone else that's interested, and getting, you know, getting at a lesser cost. And then there's a shared bathroom. So it's still a private room, but then there's a shared bathroom. And the house is just that. It's a guest house. It's not an Airbnb. It's not a hotel. It's a guest house. That means you're in each other's common areas, not personal spaces, but common area in the kitchen, which is very spacious. The living room, it's a spacious space. You've seen it. There's a yard. There's a yoga meditation studio downstairs, and it's in kind of like a quieter neighborhood in San Miguel. So for me, it's been really a blessing, because sometimes I go out there again and I'm like pinching myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so nice and so calming. For me, I would love to start adding for 2023 retreat for women. I'm working on that right now. I don't have all of it developed, but it is going to be kind of from personal experience. It's called Peace, Not Pieces. And that's something that is very personal for me. And yes, you and I have talked a little bit about it, so we'll talk some more. Maybe you'll help us facilitate something that we. I am in some conversations with Katie Van Doren, and
Yes.
you know who she's
Yeah.
an amazing artist and art therapist, and I just wow, yeah. And I recently had a session, I shared that with you as well, that
Mm.
art therapy, and it was just incredible and empowering in so many ways. So I'm building around this concept. On a fun note, we have a package for Day of the Dead. So if anyone's interested in coming for that, I think it's a 3-day package, which includes staying at Casa Elm and participating in the festivities and understanding what the holiday is, what it means. This is not us bombarding people at the cemetery while they pay respects to their loved ones, but we will participate in the local happenings that are in Central. So that's something that's coming up, and I think we might do a Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah, I'm not sure something. Yeah, you know how that goes. I
Right.
love cooking, and I'm like my Mexican cuisine with Tahara. We're like in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're like
That's
15.
so good. Mm.
Um, no, it's been really a blessing, and so I'm just like I said, I'm grateful, and so that's kind of what we're working on for right now. And you can find all of those things at casaelm.com, or like I was saying a little bit earlier, I started off as Afro Expats
Hmm.
myself this brand in particular because I really wanted people to see life from my lens as a Black person living in Mexico. I recently rebranded to Expat Life Mexico, and on Instagram you can find Expat Life period Mexico. And that ties into Casa ELM, which is ELM, which is short for Expat Life Mexico. So the rebranding was all about that and just having a more consistent name that's easy to find and image. So all of it kind of made sense in this moment to put the two together. So you can also find us at lifemexico.com if you want to book a consultation and or even travel. Just even traveling, we help with people who want to travel to SMA, maybe to even just do they want to be here in the future? So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. I didn't realize that. I guess that Casa Elm was the Elm was Expat Life Mexico.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
And does it still have a focus of like the Afro expat or like Black?
No, I rebranded because I have a lot of people who contact me. Uh, my May relocation tour, they were of Mexican descent. I've had people of Bolivian and Mexican descent contact me. Yeah, people with biracial children contact me. So, I feel in all fairness, I didn't initially start Afro expats just to be Black exclusive, but I wanted people to see life from my Black lens. And that was why I called myself that. And I have a lot of Afro American followers and Afro Canadian followers, Afro other followers, and I'm very grateful for that as well. But I also started to get a lot of people asking questions because of the service that we offer. And, they were all kind of like, like, oh, should I'm traffic, but can you help me? And I started realizing, like, okay, I never meant to be exclusive necessarily. I really wanted it to just really be, you can see it from someone else's lens, that different upbringing, a different background than, what's normally seen here in San. And that was really the intention.
I see.
Yeah.
There was that I wanted to comment on, and also because we have talked about this upcoming, whenever it is, like the upcoming retreat. But I
Mhm.
love peace, not pieces. Is that what you said? Peace, not pieces.
Yeah. I think I sent you one piece of art, but it's on my arm.
Oh, okay.
rich.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that. Oh, wow. How beautiful. Oh my God. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So much. You're one of the busiest people I know here in San Miguel.
So much for
I
my
say
retreat.
that. I always know it's like, I'm running. I've got this. I've got that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I know you keep
You
yourself
know,
very, very
it's
full.
crazy because I feel like I'm missing out on socially, but at the same time, we're still super busy here. And I'm just like, Michelle, like, whoa, because you live here. We could spend money every single night of the week going out to something. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, you went out yesterday, you had lunch in the morning, afternoon, now you're going to dinner and someone wants to have a drink. And it's just like, you need to get home. Your son needs to, do things like you have other things. So yes, I've started to, like I said, trying to hone it into group get-togethers, which is just as much fun. We always have a good time. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, that's lovely. So good. I don't know if I wanted to like share some things that are coming up for me, but I'm honestly, I think I'm just gonna post about it or something.
Share it. I want to hear.
Well, the one thing that's very new, in fact, new as of like yesterday, it's just like it's an online workshop, like 2 hours. I've gone between 2 and 2.5. Right now it's at 2 hours, but like in the evening. So a week from tomorrow, like the 21st of June,
Mhm.
and I'm calling it, like, what am I I've changed things a lot. It's called Erotic Embodiment,
Mhm.
Seduction of the Melanated Spirit. So this is like,
We need explanations here. Put the words together. I'm like, be more. Give more.
it's, I will share, I will say that the seduction of the melanated spirit came from that a good friend of mine, Nika Carley, who's another a coach, a black coach, who kind of, I was sharing something new with it, but it really like Deepak Chopra. So many years ago, I went to a meditation retreat, and it was called Seduction of Spirit.
Where, but
What's that?
where did you go for
It
that?
was in Carlsbad,
Oh, okay.
kind of not far from San Diego.
Okay.
It was definitely in a time when a lot was kind of emerging for me, and I was between two jobs, and I had some time off finally, that I really needed. And so I went there and did it. And that was it was really good. So this is not that, but I'm just sharing that that's kind of where part of it came. But it's kind of like a little mini, it's to give a little mini experience of what this pleasure temple is, that is a bigger offering. So that's an online offering and a retreat, and that goes much more in depth. So this is just like to give like a little bit of that,
Mhm.
which is like I say like pleasure portal. Let's just to like talk about it a little bit, because I think we can't really get into the body. The whole thing is erotic embodiment, right? Like connecting to our own sensuality, sexuality, like connecting more to that. This is what it really is. But we have like the just some discussion, or like I'll just talk a little bit, because that's just to like, because the mind, it gets really freaked out otherwise. It can.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the person, but I think, yeah, clarity.
Yeah.
As much as you want to, inject here, I
Yeah.
think
um yeah,
fun.
so go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You go ahead.
um and then guiding a little bit of an erotic embodiment practice. So this would be like just a guided, just my voice kind of like guiding something. It's not going to go anything too in depth, but just to give an example of what that is.
Mhm.
And then I talk about sensual alchemy, which for me, it's like then an opportunity to ask questions, or if there's anyone that wants to get a little bit of like kind of coaching on something, or, you know, just to share and have some reflection. And then sacred grounding, which is like the integration. So these kind of 4 pieces will be in this little workshop,
Okay.
which I'm happy to do it for free, actually, because the idea is like, let me get people interested, or to get a taste. Like, it's really like, okay, if you don't know what it is or you're curious, you know, but I've learned that I've learned for me, this is not for everyone, but for me, if I try to offer things free, like, nobody comes to it. So, and I've done that a few times.
Well, I think, and I don't know what you've done because I haven't, you know, had
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily, but I think putting a little time on it, sometimes people, you know, and putting it out there, even if it
Mhm.
seems like too much, is just putting it out there or just start talking about it.
Yeah.
I think with anything, you know, you just keep working at it and blindly just follow your faith and it grows. So
Yes.
that is all very interesting. I know that I would be interested in, again, depends on when it's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But you're more than welcome to share it on my mediums and platforms or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That would be great. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you, there's several people who stopped in here that you might know, and I'm just like waving at everyone. Hello, welcome. um, yeah, so it's going to be the 21st at 7 o'clock, and I'm going to record it. Sometimes I don't record it. I have been reluctant last year to record things as much, but for this, I'm like, it's mostly going to be me. It's mostly going to be me talking, just to record it so that if people can't be there
Mhm.
live. And it's going to be $11. That's what I was going to say. It's not free, but I made it $11. So, so it's not
It's
a
the 21st next week.
yes.
Okay, yeah, you got to give a little bit more time, sister.
I know, right? I just thought of it yesterday. No, I just thought of it over the weekend, actually.
Oh, okay, well, just do it and then do another. And, you
Yeah, maybe I'll do
know,
another one too.
yeah, it's very interesting. And I think that and this is my personal input, you know, I hear what you're offering and what you're doing, but I also don't fully get it. So, and that's not a negative thing. I just feel like the more you give and the more people are interested, they'll pay for it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Interested, and I know you and I talked a little bit, and even with this session today, I was kind of like, okay, you know, what are we gonna you know, review? And you sent me the chart. I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So
Oh yeah, yeah, the sensual sovereignty.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes. No, I really appreciate all that. And that's what I'm learning too. I learn as I put things out and people be like, I don't, yeah, but I don't know what it is, or, you know, interesting. And I have people, because I'm in these different worlds, I have different groups. I have people who are way into embodiment and pleasure and all this. You know, other coaches and all that. And then there are people that have never done anything quite like it. So.
I think it's cool. So what you're doing and, you know, just putting it out there, I think it'll definitely grow for sure.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for your support too. And thank you for being here. I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed and that I get to be a part of some of this community that you're creating, that you create so easily. And I know it is effort, but it also appears effortless sometimes. You just
It's all about free
do it.
food, give away the free food, and they come. Hey, you coming?
Oh,
No, it's really not. Really cool. Really a blessing, yeah.
it's so good. And I'm grateful to have met your mother too. She's so
Yes.
lovely. And your son. And yes, it's all very, very beautiful. Well, thank you. So I'll share this to Instagram. And I've been uploading everything to YouTube as well. So I'll
Okay.
share that link with you also. Just have it's just I like doing it on Instagram, but then it's easier to find, it seems to be on YouTube. Like to have all the conversations there. So
Awesome. Yeah, share it whenever you have it, and I'll definitely share it as well. That'd be perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for spending this full moon, our full moon together. And
Wait, I can't wait. It was so beautiful last night, and it comes like kind of, there's a window behind me. I
oh,
just put it up so we could see each other.
oh yeah.
Thing. I am just like, it just feels so magical. Yeah.
Mm,
Love it.
yes, it is. It's a very well. I say this for every all the moons. I'm like, oh, it's so intense, it's so potent. But this one is, um, it is kind of they call it the buck moon, full buck
Mm.
moon, and it's in Capricorn, and so like this energy of doing things, like getting things done, which you're good at. You're good at anyway.
That's been the whole week. Get it done. Get her done. Yesterday, I really felt like I didn't get anything. I was working at it, but it felt like, okay, I did spend 2 hours over here. That didn't happen. I had to go to immigration for something. Just didn't work out. And I was just like, you know, today I was just telling Micah on the way home, I was like, today feels so productive compared to yesterday. So yeah, get it done.
Yay! The full moon. All
Yeah,
right. Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
you too. Besitos, abrazos.
Bye.